When I was younger, I would say 12 years old, I transferred from the school I was raised into a larger school in a nearby city. The optimism of my parents regarding the better education I would get and the ample amount of opportunities was contagious, to the point I was looking forward to this new chapter in my life. Fast forward to the beginning of my second week, where this once contagious optimism had somewhere been lost. See, as being the new kid, it was easy to joke about me or simply ignore me altogether. I did not want to go back. However, fortunately, my parents did not allow quitting as a solution, stating that I must try, and I began my second week. Little did I know that this second week of school as a 12-year-old would shape my entire life. This was the week I would meet my first friend. Not just any friend, but a friend that would become my best friend. A friend that would play with on the weekends, have sleepovers with. A friend that was allowed to walk into my house unannounced at any time, welcome. A friend that I later learned was 3/4 Native American, Choctaw to be more specific. However, at the time, race had little effect on anyone that I knew of. I was not aware of the internal struggles that many Native Americans face, and I was not aware of the tragic ending my best friend would face due to this. Over the next few years of our friendship, I learned about his father's alcoholism and eventual suicide at the age of 22, a few months after my friend was born. I learned this as we were both drunk, sitting on the front porch of some house in the downtown area at the age of around 17. At this time in our relationship, getting drunk on the weekends at a random house was a normal occasion and became the time when I learned the most about my friend. It seemed over the years he began keeping his emotions internally instead of sharing them like we did when we were children. But me being young as well, I didn't notice the change until looking at the entire relationship later. There were many nights I can remember as my friend opened up to me about something from his past or how he felt something was missing from his current life, all of which he would not remember the next day, as it seemed he could never stop drinking once he started until he blacked out where he happened to be, and woke up the next day and started over. This all continued on a regular basis. We eventually moved in together with 2 other friends, and without the worry of coming home drunk, my friend's drinking continued to get worse until it was a daily occurrence. However, still being young, I did not see this as being a problem. I seen it more as my friend liked to have fun, and that's how he did it. Honestly, he seemed more like himself when he was drinking. He was able to communicate feelings and was more outgoing for the most part. Somebody that people wanted to hang out with. This was until he went through a breakup that he took extremely hard, and this once outgoing, happy drunk friend turned into a more depressed and angry friend. Once a friend that would rather give you a hug than look at you wrong, seemingly overnight turned into some friend sitting in jail for drunk driving and assault on a police officer. It was around that time I realized there was a serious problem, but I did not say anything. I did not say a word until he was sitting in the front seat of my truck mourning the unexpected death of one of our friends with a gun in his hand. According to the Center of Disease Control in 2018, the suicide rate of Native Americans is 21.5 people per 100,000. This is more than 3.5 times higher than any other racial ethnic group. This number is not getting smaller either. The CDC states that suicide rate has increased yearly since 2003, resulting in the largest loss of Native Americans due to suicide ever recorded, being each new year. This devastating, growing problem has not gone unnoticed by Native tribes or the United States government, but nothing has effectively been done to lower the number or find the root cause of the problem. Though seemingly impossible to resolve, I do have a proposed solution. A recent study concluded that tribes with no suicides had more indicators of cultural continuity. So what exactly does that mean? This translates to tribes that were more in touch with their culture, where they came from, are less likely to commit suicide. Native Americans that understand their heritage and take part in cultural activities are less likely to end up depressed and less likely to develop drug and alcohol dependencies. Native Americans that are allowed to be one with the earth instead of being forced to live in a society covered in concrete and surrounded by leaders, teachers, friends, and colleagues with little to no understanding of Native American culture are less likely to be buried in the earth before their time. All people need to be made aware of Native American culture, not just the people living close to tribal land or Native Americans themselves. Everyone needs to be educated on the real culture of Native Americans. But how do we do this? How do we educate the entire population on Native American culture and began pushing the education initiative out to the people? The answer is through the public school system and its current curriculum and after-school programs aimed towards the culture of Native Americans. A place where Native Americans can go to relax or learn new skills that should have been handed down from generation to generation but were cut off. A place where Native Americans can be Native Americans and understood. Possibly, if my friend had this understanding of his heritage and a grasp on why he felt the way he did, he would not have been sitting in my truck lost and helpless with a gun in one hand and no hope in the other. It took the act of a young man seconds away from ending his life for me to understand that there is a problem. And I made a terrible mistake not noticing the signs sooner and for honestly not being the friends and support system that he needed. I had nothing to give him. I had no words of advice, no understanding of how he was feeling or to make it stop. The only thing I could do was tell him I did. I lied to him and I told him I understand what he's going through. I begged him to let me have the gun that he held tightly between his leg and the door of my truck. I just kept talking and tried to understand what he was saying and let him know he was not alone. I tried. We must gather to reform the public school system curriculum to include accurate Native American culture, as well as assist tribes in creating safe places for Native Americans to grow and learn their heritage that should have been handed down. If we must try, it's too late for some, but it's not too late for everyone. We must move forward, and in their spirit, we must try.